across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I am your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of breaking news, compelling views and dynamic debate. Get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, September the 18th. Here's what's coming up. You knew that the eagerly awaited Chequers press conference with Starmer and Trump was not going to be a festival of home truths when the American president got the ball rolling by announcing that two-tier Keir was one hell of a tough negotiator. Hardly. Our pathetic Prime Minister couldn't negotiate his way out of a paper bag. This is the gormless guy who negotiated the hilariously useless one-in, one-out deal with his Euro pal, little mini Macron. Incredibly, Britain actually got a migrant back to France today under this ludicrous swap-a-foreigner deal. Now, the word is the French are sending us a plane load of their rejects on Saturday. For this embarrassing balance, our thanks go to ace tough negotiator Keir Starmer. 0344 499 1000. I'll bring you all the thrills and spills of the Chequers powwow in just a little while. How all those ace journalists managed to get through a 40-minute conflab with only once mentioning Jeffrey Epstein is a mystery to me. Mandelson's name cropped up, but the president said he didn't know him. Yes, he did. Anyway, I'll get to that wasted opportunity later. But first, I'm going to start the show with yet another testament to this government's and previous government's atrocious handling of the migrant crisis. This shocking story is ground zero of the horror that a generation of useless politicians and hopeless civil servants have unleashed on the long-suffering British public. Last night I covered the horrific saga of an Egyptian migrant who broke into Britain illegally in April 2023. He was living at taxpayers' expense at the Hilton Hotel in Ealing, West London. When last November he headed to Hyde Park, where he brutally raped a poor young lady who was walking home at 9 p.m. after a night out in central London. Sentencing this monster to 8.5 years in jail, the judge said it was clear that he didn't believe he'd done anything particularly wrong. He hails from a Middle Eastern culture where attitudes to women are very different to those we harbour here in Britain. It gets worse. This is unbelievable. Today we learn that in his home country, Egypt, he's a convicted Islamic terrorist, bomb maker. Unbelievably, Home Office officials spent 17 months pondering whether this should stop them granting him asylum. In the meantime, we paid for his accommodation, his food, his healthcare, and of course, his lawyers to fight his case to become a full-time resident of the UK. As regular viewers and listeners know only too well, it's not often that I'm lost for words. But on this one, I am. I don't know what to say. Do you? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, the soon-to-be-published bombshell book all of Westminster is talking about. The book full of shock revelations that they say could sink Starmer and his rotting regime once and for all. 0344 499 1000. Plus, I'll play you the sinister video of a copper calling on a cancer-stricken woman and demanding that she apologise for tweets he said had caused offence. She refused and still doesn't know what the offending tweets are or were. When did the police decide it was their job to get people to say sorry for hurty words on social media? You tell me. 0344 499 1000. And also, will the BBC cancel this year's Eurovision if Israel are allowed to participate? The signs are it will. Is the state broadcaster's anti-Israel problem out of control? 0344499 1000. And finally, Kinsey Schofield on the Royals and that amazing Windsor Castle speech by Donald Trump that completely unpersoned Prince Harry, only mentioning King Charles's son, Prince William, his remarkable son, heaping praise on William and his wife Catherine, but only talking in terms of the King's children in the singular. To have been a fly on the wall at Montecito if they were watching that on telly, eh? And finally, as I say, Kinsey Schofield on the Royals. She will be joining us later. But in that speech, it was as if old Ginger Nuts did not exist. If only, eh? All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday night together. And for the first hour, I am joined by my Thursday regular. Always a pleasure to have him on board. He is Senior Fellow from the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. Hello, Philip.
Hi, Kev. It's great to see you again.
Always a pleasure, mate. Now, let's get to that shocking story that I mentioned in my monologue. I mean, it just literally defies belief. So here we have this Egyptian guy. We covered this story last night, but we didn't know the full horrific truth. This guy is called, bear with me here, Abdul Rahman Abu Elela. He's 42 years old. It was November when he raped this poor woman, poor young lady in Hyde Park. Now, he came to this country in April 2023. He broke into this country illegally, and in the manner of these things, he claimed asylum because he said that if he was returned to Egypt, into his home country, he would face political persecution. What we subsequently found out, or have found out, I mean, as I say, here he was living at the Hilton Hotel in Ealing to the west of London, very nice area, by the way, while we were funding his entire life, as we do for these asylum seekers, free accommodation, free food, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers to fight their cases to stay. So we were paying for his entire life. Last November, he decided to go up to town, to central London, to Hyde Park, where he committed this horrific, brutal rape. And what we didn't know yesterday, that was bad enough. Because what the judge said, Philip, this is important, in sentencing this guy, this monster, to 8.5 years, the judge said, I genuinely don't believe that you realise that what you've done is terribly wrong. He said, I don't think you realise that what you've done, you don't understand that what you've done is particularly wrong. And there's a theme here. This happens time and time again with these migrants. They come over from the Middle East, they sexually assault or they rape, and they don't think it's that much of a bigger deal. And when we come down on them like a ton of bricks, they get shocked. There was a case of an Afghani migrant about 6 months ago. He came here, came across on a small boat illegally. We, of course, embraced him, the warm embrace of the asylum system. We sent him to Scotland, to Falkirk. Put him in a hotel there. He pretty much immediately walked out of the hotel, found a vulnerable young girl who was genuinely vulnerable, apparently. She was only 15, I seem to recall. Took her behind a local pub and viciously raped her. He got 12.5 years. His defence was, this is his lawyer's defence, his defence in that trial was, no one told me about the different attitudes that you in Britain have to women to those we have to women in Afghanistan. So this guy, this Egyptian guy, it's pretty much the same story. The judge saying, I don't believe you have any idea, or that you do not believe that you've done anything particularly wrong. Anyway, that's bad enough. So he's about to start his sentence. Probably is starting it now. Today, a day after I covered this story, we learn that while in Egypt, he was found guilty of being an Islamic terrorist bomb maker. In his absence, I presume he managed to get out of the country or something, he got a 7.5-year sentence. It is reported that the Home Office knew about this. It took them so they pondered for 17 months whether or not to let this guy stay, even though they knew he was a convicted Islamic terrorist bomb maker. I mean, as I said in my monologue, it's not often that I'm lost for words, but I hardly know what to say about this, except for it seems to me that when we talk about the migrant crisis, when we talk about the scourge of letting in thousands upon thousands upon thousands of young men of sexually active age from cultures where they're not allowed to even look upon women, and where they have a very different attitude to women, that this is what's going to happen. This is what is going to happen. This is that you're going to end up with this kind of story. And the fact that our Home Office officials, didn't sort of just thought, well, he's got this conviction for being an Islamic terrorist bomb maker. Anyway, well, what we'll do is we'll have a think about it, 17 months, and in that time, our friend can wander around, wander the streets, roam the streets, completely free guy, while we pay for his entire life. This sums up, doesn't it, the madness of what our political class are doing, what they have done to this nation. This, as I say, this is ground zero of the insanity surrounding our migrant crisis.
Yeah, this particular case is just revolting. It's obscenity upon obscenity, isn't it? And you have to ask yourself, Kev, how many more of these cases are there? How many more terrorists that the Home Office think, well, we don't really know what to do about it, or whatever, and we can't send them back because they might go back to a hostile environment. The point that you've just made about the difference in cultures is massively important, and it's a point that I made a couple of weeks ago. I had a slight disagreement with Alex Phillips about it, actually, because I was talking about another case, and the point is there are just so many of these cases, and they're all very similar, these rape cases, and it's just that they do not understand that you're not allowed to rape women. It's as simple as that. You shouldn't go around raping women. That's what you shouldn't do. They come from a culture in which women are little more than barter material. So, and there are all of these cultures across Africa, across the Middle East. And if you think about Africa, for example, female genital mutilation, it's massive, it's huge. It's right across the continent. You think about the place of women and girls in the Middle East. We know all of this, and the Home Office knows all of this. And yet all of these people come in, and the clear present danger that these people represent to our people is just appalling. But also, this guy was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood gave us the phrase Islamophobia, remember? Okay. So it's not only about sexual violence. It's not only about terrorism. It's about a culture in which our establishment allows all of this stuff to not only to happen, but to flourish, because they are actually using the same terminology that our enemies, and they are our enemies are using. This idea of anything you say against these people, if you say, actually, mate, you shouldn't go around raping people. Oh, God, no, that's Islamophobic. He didn't know that. That is an insane situation.
Yeah, it certainly is. And the fact that it seems, or it's reported, that the Home Office, sat around wondering whether or not to allow this guy to stay for 17 months before he raped someone, which I guess decided the issue, even though they knew that he was a convicted Islamic terrorist and, as you say, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, a very radical Islamic group. You know, I mean, what is going through their minds, these Home Office civil servants? Ooh, you know, yeah, do we let him stay? Do we not let him stay? He's a convicted Islamic terrorist bomb maker. I mean, that should just be an open and shut case, shouldn't it?
Yeah, and I hear about, you know, well, this case in particular is like I say, it's just appalling. But there are others similar, you know, and you just wonder, don't you? When is the next atrocity going to be? When is the next nail bomb at a concert going to be? You know, and I have to think, well, you were just talking there, I was just thinking about the Home Office, and don't forget there's a 850 strong, is it, Islamic network within the Home Office that is undermining
I'll bet there is, yeah.
Well, there is. It's an Islamic network, you know, a religious network. There are other networks as well, Christian networks and Catholic networks and so on, but there's a 850 strong Islamic network within the Home Office that has worked in the past to undermine the work of Prevent and try and focus on so-called far-right terrorism rather than Islamic terrorism. So there is a real problem here. We have fifth columnists within our own establishment who just want to turn a blind eye to this stuff. And again, I think sexual violence, terrorism, you know, and a general attack on our people all go hand in hand. They're all part of the same thing. It's a war on Britain. It's a war on British people, and most importantly, it's a war on women and children.
One more point I think we have to make about these young men that come over, often from the Middle East, from Africa, Islamic cultures, different cultures. They come from countries where they're not allowed to look upon women. They can't, you know, they're not even allowed to see women's big toes. I mean, in Afghanistan, horrifically, they've come up with this new burqa for women, Cyclops burqa. Yeah. In other words, you know, obviously the worst of them have these slits, so you can just see their eyes. Well, in Afghanistan, they've come up with one where you can only see one eye. You know, that's how extreme it is now. So they come from a country where you don't see anything of a woman. They're young men of sexually active age. They come to a country like Britain where, quite rightly, women are entitled to wear what the hell they like. And, of course, you know, bad things come from that, as we're discussing.
Yeah, and they're entering a culture as well which is so incredibly removed from their own. It's difficult to even describe. But one thing they do all have is mobile phones, and on those mobile phones they have things like Pornhub and access to free pornography, which probably they've never had before, which probably will also addle their brains and turn them into kind of raving sexualized beasts. I mean, the danger here is just so massive, and it is just a complete clash of cultures. Essentially, that's what it's about. It's a clash of cultures, and when things clash, there's always a fallout. And with the fallout here, our victims, as I say, it's women and children. These young men are being exposed to a kind of sexuality which is just so alien to them. You couple that with the fact that, as I say, they just think of women as barter material, or as one of them actually
second-class citizens in the country.
Yeah, as chewing gum on their boots, you know, that kind of thing. And you're in real danger. You're in real danger.
Absolutely right. And don't forget that we in this country, and this is what we're talking about, the way these civil servants always find in favour, or so often find in favour, of pretty dodgy characters, is we, of all of our asylum seeker applications, we allow 48%. That's the highest percentage in the world by a country mile. The nearest rival, I think, in Europe is France with about 30%. I think I'm right in saying, you know, Germany's way down on 12%. These are very liberal European countries. So we have a civil service whose default setting is to let people stay. This is what we've got to get rid of. Their default setting should be to try to stop people coming in, considering this country is officially full. We have a problem with the civil servants here, and we have a problem with our entire migrant crisis system. Just letting thousands and thousands of young men, unknown young men about whom we know nothing, into the country and then allowing them to roam the streets. It is putting women in danger, it's putting children in danger, it's pretty much putting everyone in danger. And this is down to our political elites, down to 14 years of dreadful Tory governments, and now just over a year of a sort of catastrophically awful Labour government. So let me know what you think, folks. 0344 499 1000. What the hell are we going to do about all this? As I say, we've got one in, one out. We actually got a migrant out today, but we'll talk about that later. Next up, we'll talk about if you like, the revealing, embarrassing, humiliating press conference with Starmer and Trump. That never was. That next. Stay tuned.
We know from endless examples that women are often persuaded, cajoled into staying in abusive, physically, sexually abusive relationships by these courts. We know that they lose the custody of their children when the children reach a certain age. We know that they're not given the same financial standing and rights to inheritance. It really is an absolute regime that has no place in this country of ours.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome still with Senior Fellow from the New Culture from was looking forward to it. This was a very brief state visit by President Trump. It began with a few projections onto the walls of Windsor Castle of Trump with Epstein, Trump's alleged message to Epstein in his 50th birthday book, which Trump denies is genuine. This was the 50th birthday book that, of course, toe-curlingly, excruciatingly, Peter Mandelson, our disgraced former ambassador to Washington, contributed. So all of that, and we thought, well, this will set the tone. You know, this is going to be 48 hours of humiliation for the Prime Minister and for Donald Trump. But it was I got to hand it to them, it was well organised. They never went anywhere near central London, so the Stop the Coalition protest in central London was sparsely attended and a waste of time. And no journalists got anywhere near them with the state banquet last night and all that. So what we were looking forward to was this afternoon, 3 o'clock-ish, Chequers, when at last they were going to face the music, these two, Trump and Starmer. Incredibly, a 40-minute press conference with all the world's press there. There was only one question right at the very end about Epstein, very perfunctory, and answered in an even more perfunctory fashion. And not much on Mandelson either, given that the Mandelson-Trump-Epstein connection should have been manna from heaven for ace journalists, ace reporters. Let's play a couple of clips from this event this afternoon, and we'll discuss that afterwards. First of all, this is the moment when Trump, and indeed Starmer, were questioned about Peter Mandelson, our former ambassador to Washington, who resigned or was sacked in disgrace over his friendship with Epstein. Check it out.
Lord Mandelson, he is no longer the ambassador. Do you have some sympathy with him that he lost his job over historic links to Jeffrey Epstein? Thank you very much, sir.
I don't know him, actually. I had heard that, and I think maybe the Prime Minister would be better speaking of that. That was a choice that he made, and I don't know. What is your answer to that?
Well, I mean, it's very straightforward. Some information came to light last week which wasn't available when he was appointed, and I made a decision about it.
Well, that wasn't very satisfying, Philip, was it? There was a good question from our colleague at The Sun, the political editor there, Jack Elson. He nailed them on migration, and the answers were quite interesting. So here's Jack.
Illegal migration is at record levels in Britain. The Prime Minister is trying to tackle that. What advice would you give to the man standing next to you on trying to stop illegal migration in Britain? I
told the Prime Minister I would stop it, and it doesn't matter if you call out the military, it doesn't matter what means you use, but it's going to destroys countries from within. And we're actually now removing a lot of the people that came into our country. It's a very hard chore. We were given a very, very bad hand. Millions of people came in from prisons and mental institutions. We have to remove them.
Jack, let me just deal with the question of returns, because this is obviously an issue we're taking incredibly seriously. We struck the returns arrangement with France, and notwithstanding the challenges to that scheme, which you've seen in the last few days, a flight went off at 6:15 this morning, successfully returning someone under that scheme. It can be done. It was done early this morning, so I can confirm that that flight went successfully, and I'm pleased about that. Now we need to ramp that up at scale, which was always envisaged under the scheme, but it's very important that we have been able to prove that the proof of concept.
Whoop-de-doo. Sorry about that noise, Philip, if you heard it in the background. That was me popping open a bottle of champagne. We've got one migrant out on the one-in, one-out scheme. I mean, they didn't tell us when it was called the one-in, one-out scheme that, from our point of view, Britain's point of view, one would be the total. Worse than that, so they finally got at least one out. Big deal. This is a scheme that started in early August. Since then, way over over 5,500 migrants have come across the channel. So as a deterrent, it's about as good as a chocolate teapot. What we understand now, worse than that, on Saturday, we're hearing that a plane load of French reject migrants are coming our way to Britain. So, they're sending their lot over. We've managed to get one out after all these legal challenges. Before we go to that, what about that, though, that after 2 days, this big conference, everybody's looking forward to the Epstein questions, the Mandelson questions. The president just goes, I don't know him. Perhaps the prime minister could deal with this. And then Starmer just trolls out, some old claptrap that he said before. So that was a great disappointment, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I watched it live, and it was really quite funny. I always love listening to Donald Trump talk because he always reminds me of The Godfather. The way he talks like that. It's great.
It's a great honour, great honour.
It's a great honour. It's a beautiful, beautiful place.
Beautiful country. Beautiful banquet. Best banquet there ever was.
It doesn't say anything. But the Keir Starmer started the whole thing by talking about freedom, democracy, and the rule of law, and it's so embarrassing to hear him talk about these things because he's attacked every single one of them. He spent all his time attacking those things, and this very formal, almost theatrical performance of the two of them, which is just completely meaningless. And you're right. The only decent question out of all of those questions there was from Jack from The Sun. You know? And Trump's response to that, which was it destroys countries from within, was a superb response. And Starmer just looks stupid because he's doing nothing. But I mean, what does he mean when he says ramping it up? What's he going to do? Ramp it up to 2 people going back?
I mean, one in, one out doesn't make any sense anyway. I mean, I think you and I have discussed this before. The whole nature of the migrant crisis is numerical. We've got too many people coming in. Thousands and thousands. Well, we're not going to cure that mathematical problem by equally swapping a migrant. For every migrant we send to them, they send us one back. Although it looks as if this week's tally may be we send them one, and they may well send us back a couple of hundred. Saturday is going to be very interesting. We don't know how many migrants are going to come from France, but we're hearing, ominously, it's a plane load. So, again, don't extol the virtues of the one in, one out scheme. It's an absolute joke. I had a barrister on last night, the excellent Stephen Barrett, and he said legally, I mean politically it's rubbish. He said, but legally it's just gibberish. He said it's utter gibberish, so it's not going to work. So a great disappointment really at that press conference, but there you are, these things happen. Let's go to break now, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the one in, one out scheme, and we're going to talk about our new tough talking Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. And when I say tough talking, I mean tough talking. Is she actually tough? I don't think so. We'll talk about that next. Stick around.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just heard breaking news, such as it is. President Trump has left the building, or rather left the country. He is now in the air, flying back to Washington in Air Force One. It was a very brief state visit, one of the shortest ever. And as I said earlier, the old hippie in me, I get a bit... I don't love this sort of display of opulence, the amount of money that feast must have cost last night. Probably in the six figures. But I do think it is well worth it. I mean, that said, never mind what I think. It's worth it. It is worth it. It's worth ingratiating ourselves to the most powerful man in the world and the most powerful country in the world. Looks like we might have got some trade deals. I think that Rachel Reeves, the new business secretary, Peter Kyle, and of course to Keir Starmer himself, I think they were really over-egging the pudding, talking about creating 15,000 jobs. There's no evidence of that. But, I am not knocking the idea of this state visit by President Trump. And by the way, it was fun, but Donald Trump is great fun. He's box office. He's entertaining. Every time he opens his mouth, it's compelling. He's got charisma. Now, before we go back to Philip Kisley, let me inform you. A little later, I'm going to go across the Atlantic. I'm going to talk to Fox News' excellent Joe Concha about the story that is shocking, sending shockwaves through America and indeed the world. It's a real big one. It is that the talk show, the ABC late night talk show, Jimmy Kimmel, has been unceremoniously chucked off the airwaves, ditched. The ABC saying he won't be back for the foreseeable future. That means he won't be back ever. And that is that it seems as if he stood there on his show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, and told a barefaced lie. He said that this guy, Tyler Robinson, the assassinator of poor Charlie Kirk, was a member of MAGA, was a Trump supporter. He was nothing of the sort. He was left-wing. He was a far-left trans rights obsessionalist. He wasn't a member of MAGA. So either Jimmy Kimmel is the worst informed man, not only in showbiz, but in America, or he just lied because he doesn't like the idea, because he's a lefty, he doesn't like the idea of one of his fellow lefties being a vicious little monster who goes around killing people with whom he disagrees. Jimmy didn't like that idea, so he said, I know what I'll do. I'll say that he's a Trumpist. He's a Trump supporter. He's a member of MAGA. That's because I like that. That fits my worldview. In other words, the suspicion is that Jimmy was, as Meghan Markle would say, was delivering to us his truth as opposed to the truth. And ABC have just cancelled him. Now, I don't approve of cancelling, but I don't think you can have a top TV star with a major television show deliberately telling his audience lies, political lies that bring the president into the equation. Anyway, it'll be fascinating to talk to Joe Concha. He's a Fox News veteran, got about 1 million followers, big name in America. So we'll talk to him in a little while about that extraordinary story. In the meantime, let's go back to my guest for the first hour from the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. Philip, let's talk about Shabana Mahmood. She's a lawyer. She used to be the attorney, what do they call him, the Solicitor General or whatever the hell she was. She's now Justice Secretary, of course. She's now the Home Secretary, and everybody's very tough, very, very tough. She came into office, said, I will stop at nothing to solve the migrant crisis. Here are the things she will stop at. Leaving the ECHR, not giving migrants 50 quid a week, free food, free accommodation, free lawyers, free doctors, free dentists. She won't stop at any of that. She won't stop at basically giving them, paying for their lives or anything. She'll stop at turning the boats round. She'll stop at detaining and deport. I'll stop at nothing to solve the migrant crisis. In fact, Shabana Mahmood, like nearly everyone in her party, the Labour Party, there's nothing that she will do to stop the crisis. There's nothing except fiddle around the edges with this ludicrous one-in, one-out scheme. So far, her only announcement has been to extend that to Germany. Well, that's a very, very big deal. But you know, the story here is, you know, she's not so much a human rights lawyer, but the Prime Minister is, the Attorney General Richard Hermer is. They are human rights law obsessionalists. Now, all these migrants are successfully challenging being sent back to France under human rights laws, under the terms of the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights. So really, the story here is, if you live by the human rights sword, you die by the human rights sword, right?
Yeah. I mean, this farcical hokey-cokey of one in, one out is just ludicrous. We know it's never, ever going to work. But nothing, the point is, Kev, nothing will work within this framework, because the framework is set up, the mechanism is there to keep people in this country, to keep our borders open, and as I said before, to put us at risk. The only thing we can do is to completely change the model. So get out of the ECHR, I should say, sorry. Then be serious about sending these illegal immigrants back, or to a place which is outside of Britain, ready to send them back to wherever they're going to go in great big numbers. Think in terms of refugee camps and that kind of thing. We have to think completely differently. We have to move away from this imposition of this false imposition of this notion of equal human rights, because what we are essentially talking about here is criminals. So we need to deal with these people as though they are criminals. Now, some of them might, you know, yes, some of them have come from terrible places and all of that kind of thing, but most of them haven't. Most of them are men. Most of them are economic migrants. Most of them are coming here for nothing. They're not going to contribute anything. So we have to deal with them in that particular way, and we have to think about protecting our own people. The first rule of government, the first duty of any government, is to protect its own people, and that is the last thing that we are constantly doing. We think about the previous story we've just talked about there. Our government is not doing that because it's not allowed to within the framework. And she will talk a good talk, but she's just going to be like Priti Patel was a few years ago. You know what I mean? She'll talk a good talk, but and she's from.
Well, she'll be worse than Priti Patel because she's from Labour. It's like I always say, Philip. You know, I've said it to you. I've said it to many other people. Look, leaving the ECHR, it's not going to solve all our ills. It's not going to solve the crisis, but it has to be the foundation stone. We have to be able to make our sovereign decisions. The problem with being a member of the ECHR, out of which, by the way, we get absolutely nothing. There's no advantage whatsoever for us being in that club. The problem with being in that club is that we, in the end, are not responsible for the final decisions. That can go to the ECHR and they can overrule us. Now, when they say, oh, well, if you leave the ECHR, then you're abrogating our commitment to human rights. You don't care about human rights. Look, let's talk about, I don't know, 3 of the most human rights obsessed countries on the face of the earth. America, Australia, New Zealand. Last time I looked, none of them are in the European Convention on Human Rights, principally because they're not European. But you do not need to be in the ECHR to believe in human rights and to have a commitment to human rights. We could make our own human rights laws and therefore be able to make our own sovereign decisions. But the fact that this government and Shabana Mahmood want to stay in the ECHR dooms them to making, just fiddling around the edges, dithering around the edges. For balance, Philip, let me just play what the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood said today.
For years, smuggling gangs have run illegal and deadly small boat channel crossings. Their pitch to migrants was the false promise that if you cross our border illegally, you can stay here. Today, we have dealt a blow to those gangs. In August, the government struck a historic agreement with the French government. Now, 8 weeks later, the first forced removals of small boat migrants are underway. In return, we will soon accept the first legal migrants into this country, following strict security and eligibility checks. When I became Home Secretary, I said I will do whatever it takes to secure our borders. Today marks an important and historic first step.
Well, look, the main thing about that, Philip, apropos our recent discussion, is she will not do whatever it takes to secure our borders. She is not doing whatever it takes to secure our borders. So, you know, well done on getting one migrant out today, but don't tell us that this is the beginning of the end of our migrant crisis. I think it's probably the beginning of it just getting even worse.
Yeah, of course it is, and as I said before, she won't do anything because she can't. Her hands are tied. The system simply will not let her, and this is a system that her and her government have bought into. And you know, as far as the human rights thing is concerned, we have something called the common law. Okay, that protects us. We have the common law. We don't need something imposed upon us to civilize us because we are a civilized nation. Okay, so all of that stuff is nonsense. And as you said before, you could give example after example of civilized nations that don't need any of this kind of stuff. And the idea of human
can I just say one last thing? Sorry to interrupt. Well, until, shall we say, they went a little rogue, Putin and Russia were members of the ECHR. Not so long ago, they were members of the ECHR. What kind of human rights have been preserved in Russia ever? You know what I mean? It's a joke.
Well, the whole idea of human rights is political as far as they're concerned. It doesn't actually mean ethics or morals. So if you're talking about someone who's just raped someone in a park, for example, because we talk about that an awful lot, don't we? The human rights are always going to come down on the side of the rapist, and the concern is always going to be for the rapist. So the victim is not only a victim of the crime, the victim is also a victim of the system that kind of re-victimizes her as well. And it's always about men. It's always supporting men. And again, as I say every week, it's always women who suffer. So human rights don't really apply to women, do they? They just apply to men and trans men.
Trans men, exactly right. Listen, let's go to break. And when we come back, talking of eagerly awaited, we eagerly awaited that press conference today to no avail. But the next item that we are eagerly awaiting that may produce more delicious results, there's a book coming out. It's a tell-all book about Starmer's administration. That is the talk of Westminster. They say that it will mean that officials, maybe MPs, maybe even ministers, will fall like skittles. So it looks like there could be a lot more trouble for Starmer. And they say that it's possible that the revelations in this book are so shocking that it could once and for all do for Starmer. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned, folks.
know from endless examples that women are often persuaded, cajoled into staying in abusive, physically, sexually abusive relationships by these courts. We know that they lose the custody of their children when the children reach a certain age. We know that they're not given the same financial standing and rights to inheritance. It really is an absolute regime that has no place in this country of ours.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with, from the New Culture Forum, Dr. Philip Kilsley. Philip, let's talk about this new book. It's not out yet, but it's soon to be published. As I say, it's the Talk of Westminster. It's called The Fraud, Keir Starmer, Morgan McSweeney, and the Crisis of British Democracy. Morgan McSweeney, of course, being the under-threat Chief of Staff at Downing Street. The Prime Minister apparently at the end of his tether with him, thinking of sacking him due to the mess the entire government administration finds itself in. This book is written by Paul Holden, and he said, "I don't know if more resignations are on the way, but there are definitely a lot more revelations on the way." Apparently, this book could have devastating results and may even be the final straw that breaks the back of Keir Starmer's premiership. Intriguing.
Yeah, and in a way, you almost want something to put Starmer out of his misery, because
You're right about that.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm watching it and I'm cringing every time. You know, he's putting on this front, and you know that it's all falling apart behind him. This book could probably be the kindest thing that anybody does for him, really. It's wonderful. I'm so looking forward to reading it, because we kind of know, don't we? We know it's over, and I think it won't. This book will not only be a favour for Starmer. If the revelations are kind of what I think they are, then it will be a favour for the whole country as well. Because the sooner this administration just collapses and goes, the better for all concerned. Because anyway, people are already looking forward. People are already looking forward to reform 2029, if not before. And I suppose what we really want is, if I'm being really honest, we want some real scandal to really see the boat sink, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Of course, when he talks about resignations, he's referring to Paul Ovenden, who until a couple of days ago was a director of strategy at number 10 Downing Street. Very big job. He had to walk the plank, had to resign because of historical emails, messages he sent, lewd messages he sent about Diane Abbott. I won't go into the details. All right, I will. They were playing a game called It's Late Enough, grown-up program. The game was called, Snog, Marry, Avoid. Well, their game that they were playing about Diane Abbott and several other people, to be fair, was Shag, Marry, Kill. Anyway, Paul Ovenden's contribution or participation in that game in 2017 led to his demise. I mean, I don't particularly want to go into whether or not someone should lose his job for an 8-year-old indiscretion like that when he was only a junior press officer. But the point is, he had to go. And what Paul Holden, the author, is implying is that there may be more stories like Paul Ovendon's and others may have to go. And he's talking about not only officials, but also politicians, MPs, and maybe even cabinet ministers. So, yeah, there may be trouble ahead, in the words of the song.
Yeah, but I mean, the left have brought this on themselves, haven't they? Because they've collapsed the boundary between the private and the public spheres, so they can police the private sphere. These messages were never meant to be of public consumption. They were just they were private, and people say lots of ridiculous or terrible things. I don't think he should have gone. But again, it's their victim. They're hoisted by their own petard. It's like the one in, one out scheme. They're victims of their own culture. They're victims of their own ideology. And of course, this guy shouldn't have gone. But this is what happens when you play the game like that.
Yeah, you're right. Because don't forget, Starmer came in saying he was going to clean up politics. He was going to run a saintly regime. Well, he's actually turned. Number 10 Downing Street is usually a kind of a cesspit, but Keir Starmer has made it considerably worse than that. So yeah, you're right. I'll clean up politics, and when it transpires you're as bad as the rest of them, it looks even worse than if you hadn't said you were going to clean up politics. So we await the publication of that book with interest, to say the least. Philip, brilliant to talk to you. We'll get you on again next week, of course. Philip Kisley from the New Culture Forum there. Now, when we come back, I'm going to play you a video which is, again, an indictment of the erosion of freedom of speech in this country, an extraordinary visit by a copper to a cancer patient about tweets she had been making. That next, stay tuned.
Your Majesty, Melania and I are deeply grateful to you and Queen Camilla for your extraordinary graciousness. And to William and Kate, thank you so much. It's been so great being with you today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. The phrase special relationship, seen from American eyes, the word special does not begin to do it justice. We're joined by history and fate, by love and language. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you.
Security remains the cornerstone of this special relationship. We have the
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Should tell you, tomorrow night, on tomorrow night's show, I will be interviewing Lucy Connolly. Lucy Connolly, of course, the poor lady who was sentenced to 2 years and 7 months for posting some hurty words on Twitter. The reason I'm mentioning that, so that'll be tomorrow night, probably at 8 o'clock. We'll let you know during the day. The reason I'm telling you that is because it plays into what we're going to talk about here. We're talking about the erosion of free speech and the police's participation in this chilling sinister decline in our right to say what we want, our right to express ourselves. The police calling on people time and time again, saying you tweeted something offensive 10 months ago, a year ago. So what? You know, now this is the story of a lady called Deborah Anderson. She's an American lady, and she lives in the Thames Valley area. She's also, sadly, suffering from cancer. Now, what happened with her a few months back, a copper from Thames Valley Police called on her, banged on her door, and asked to come in. She let him in, and he said, well, I've got to talk to you about some troubling tweets, you know, offensive tweets. And she said, well, what are you talking about? She said, have I broken the law or anything like that? He said, well, look, what we're asking you to do is apologise for them. And she said, well, what are the tweets? She still doesn't know what the damn tweets are. Good for her. She's a member of the Toby Young's Free Speech Union. She's a fan of Donald Trump. And she said, I'm not apologising for tweets. I don't even know what they are. Also, have I broken the law, and so on and so forth. Well, this brings into sharp focus our fears about the British police force. They're doing this time and time again. You remember my colleague and friend Alison Pearson, the brilliant columnist at the Daily Telegraph, on Remembrance Sunday morning, 2 coppers from Essex Police banging on her door. Oh, you may have posted some troubling tweets a year ago. She's now suing the police for that ludicrous pursuit of her. And this happens all the time. You know what I'm talking about. We did a story last night, same deal. A reporter called Rebecca Tiddy, who had tweeted 3 tweets about the true story of an ex-copper who had been charged with harassment. He denies the charges. He's going to be in court in Bodmin in November. Police go around and say, oh, well, these tweets, you're causing him fear and distress. This is harassment. She's a journalist reporting the story. You know, if that's causing him fear and distress, tough. You know, it's a free country and you've got free speech, and she's reporting a story. So more and more, my question here is, when did the police decide that it was their job to patrol the tweets and not the streets? And when did they decide it was their job to demand or to get people to apologise, to say sorry for allegedly hurty words, for allegedly offensive tweets? It's not against the law in this country to be offensive. Otherwise, I'd be doing life. I'd be doing a long stretch in prison. Seriously, it's not against the law. But have a look at this video. It's chilling and it is sinister. Watch this. I'm going to play the whole thing to you.
You can come in, but you better have a damn good reason for being here. I'm a member of the Free Speech Union, and I'm an American citizen. I'll have Elon Musk on you so quick your feet won't touch.
Something that we believe you've written on Facebook has upset someone.
You're here because somebody got upset. Is it against the law? Am I being arrested?
You're not being arrested.
Then what are you doing here?
My plan was, if you were admitting that it was you who wrote the comment, you could just make an apology to the person.
I'm not apologising to anybody, I can tell you that.
The alternative would be that I have to call you for an interview. I'm here to talk to you about the allegation. They've reported it to the police.
So what?
Obviously, we get a lot of reports like that.
Are there no houses that have been burgled recently? No rapes, no murders?
Yeah, that's all going on as well.
Well, then why aren't you out there doing, investigating those?
Because I've got to investigate everything that gets reported.
Well, you're not investigating houses being burgled.
No, that's not my job today. Would you like to have a look at the comment that
I don't need to. I know exactly the things I've said. You know how many people in this neighborhood have been broken into?
I don't look after this neighborhood.
No, of course you don't, unless there's a tweet, then you do. So what? I haven't broken any laws. So you're going to be wasting your time when you can be, instead, doing things that are more important.
That's why I wanted to just come to you directly, have a chat about it.
No. You should not be doing this. I'm a cancer patient. You can see that because I'm bald.
I didn't know that before I came, but it doesn't change anything. You still can't break laws. If you haven't broken the law, then nothing happens.
Well, you know whether I've broken a law. You can judge for yourself before you even show up at my door. The public knows what you guys are doing. We know what's going on in this country. Why don't you do that? Get on to them and tell them to apologize to me, a cancer patient, a woman living on her own who has never broken a law in her life, by the way, ever. An older woman, you tell them, I'm an elderly woman, I'm a cancer patient.
They have to come back and arrange an interview then.
Well, you can arrange it, but I'm going to tell you the same damn things that I'm telling you now. Next time, I'm going to have a free speech union lawyer with me.
Well, I don't know about you, but I mean, that's extraordinary. That's that you know, if nothing else, that is wasting my money and yours. That is a waste of taxpayers' money. And when did policing get reduced to that? I mean, you know, I would say that I feel a bit sorry for the copper having to do that, but he seems to feel that, you know, what he's doing is full of right and conscience. He's doing the right thing. Well, just apologise for what you... what are you talking about? That's not your job. I mean, come on. Come on. Let's talk to former police detective Mike Neville. Hello, Mike.
Yes, hello, Kevin. Good greetings from...
you're in France, aren't you? Yeah.
I'm in Normandy, celebrating the men who fought for our freedoms that we're supposed to have.
Well, that's a rather poignant place for you to be, given what we're discussing. You've seen that video. I sent it to you this morning, but I think you're already aware with it. It's been viewed over 2 million times. Deborah Anderson, I think you're seeing there the sort of edge of her sort of medical bed. The poor lady, she's got no hair because she's got a cancer patient. And the guy said, to be fair to the cop, he said, oh, I didn't know that, but it doesn't change the situation. So let me ask you what I just stated to the audience. So when did the police decide that it was their job to persuade people to apologise for causing offence on Facebook or X or Twitter or social media? When did they decide that was their job? It isn't their job. Who decided it, and why do they do it?
Well, it's quite incredible, Kevin, isn't it? It's becoming like a primary school teacher, isn't it? Saying, all right, we've all been misbehaving, so we'll all hold hands and say sorry to each other. And I think the real change has come as the senior officers have changed. I've said this before, that when I was at Scotland Yard, when I first joined as a young PC, there was 40 senior officers and 20 of them were ex-army. And you had this crime-busting sort of role and catch robbers and burglars. And the other half of the senior officers were student types, you know, university graduates and the like. But now the whole place is dominated. I don't think any of the senior officers at Scotland Yard are ex-armed forces. And so you have people who focus on all the wrong things, really. You saw about 3-4 years ago, Merseyside police were driving around with a thing saying to cause offence is an offence. You know, this is the attitude coming from office.
Before the chief superintendent or the chief constable of Merseyside police was informed it actually is not an offence to be offensive, and he went, oh, we better take those vans off the road then. I mean, a generation of coppers seem to be labouring under the misimpression that it is illegal to be offensive. It's not.
It's not illegal at all. And as I say, you're looking for a change. I noticed a change when Cressida Dick became the commissioner at the yard. There was an almost line in the sand there where it wasn't important anymore how many robbers, burglars and thieves you caught. Because my department used to deal with all the CCTV images of people captured, committing all sorts of offences. And we took great pride in identifying lots and lots of proper criminals, linking them to lots of crime and putting them in jail. But then there was no interest in this. And where we've come to now, the Free Speech Union, of which I'm also a member, because you never know who's going to attack you, is reporting that there's about 30 of these arrests a day. 30 arrests for these things a day. That's nearly 1,000 in a month. This is like far more than there are social media post arrests in places like Russia. It's just incredible. And somebody in the police needs to get a grip here. You have a Conservative, allegedly, police and crime commissioner in the Thames Valley Police where this incident occurred. What is he going to do about it? When is he going to speak to his chief constable and say, look, we need to sort this out? Because the last Thames Valley inspection showed that they were charging reported offences. Only less than 4% of people were charged with a crime, and it said on the report, in crime investigation requires improvement. So they need, like the lady said, like Deborah Anderson said, they need to focus on burglaries and rapes and robberies and thefts. It simply isn't good enough, and it's letting the public down.
So this happened in June, as I say, as you can hear from Deborah's accent, Deborah Anderson. She's a cancer patient. She's American, rather, and she's a cancer patient. She's a mother of two. She is a member of the Free Speech Union. And you heard, in fairness, that copper saying, which would you like to know which of your posts caused offence? She said, no, I wouldn't. But often, coppers won't tell people. I did a story last night about a journalist who got the same treatment. Oh, you've posted 3 offensive tweets that harassing someone, you're causing fear and distress. This was a journalist reporting the story of an ex-copper who was actually being charged with harassment. He said, she keeps posting these tweets and they're causing me fear and distress. This is harassment. So the police made her go into Plymouth police station. You know, it cannot be the police's business that a reporter is reporting the truth on Twitter. So they've got it all wrong. So she's, to be fair, thank God, the Free Speech Union took up her case. But listen to this. She said she didn't want to know what the offensive post was, but the Free Speech Union took up her case, and now the police have dropped the case because there isn't a case. So they still haven't told Deborah which of her posts has got her into trouble. And when, out of interest, the Free Speech Union said, well, can we have a look at it? They said, oh, well, actually, we've accidentally deleted the record of the complaint. I mean, you know, they're turning into sort of nanny state aunties, aren't they? Oh, you can't go around being nasty to people. You know, I mean, what the hell is going on?
Well, you would, like I say, Kevin, you wouldn't mind, would you, if the police solved nearly every theft, every burglary, every robbery and rape, you know, and they had, you know, everything, all the criminals were locked up, and now they've got loads of time on their hands, and they think, well, our duty is to make sure that people are nice with each other. But it isn't like that. The police at the moment are solving 1% of thefts, on average 5% of burglars. People are just blatantly shoplifting, evading fares, and all sorts of other stuff. And what was really odd, what the officer said, we have to investigate every report that's made.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
It's completely untrue, because, you know, I had a time, you know, people would come into the police station with all sorts of delusions and tell you that, you know, sort of Martian had robbed them with a ray gun. Well, you don't have to investigate that. You know, somebody reports that some apples have been stolen off the tree. You say, well, I'm sorry, you know, we're not here to deal with that. But something's gone dreadfully wrong with the police, and I'm really convinced it's the leadership at the top, which is become politically correct. It's more concerned with diversity than it is criminal investigation, with a few notable exceptions. And then at the bottom, you have to have a degree to get in, so they can condition you to think this is the way forward. And I'm speaking to a great ex-cop, Kevin Hurley.
Kev comes on the show sometimes.
He's a top guy. And he said to me, look, me and you could go and take over the police tomorrow, and we'd almost find it impossible. They're reporting us straight away that the people inside the police, you know, who wouldn't want to be led like this, they're quite happy to investigate tweets and not patrol and catch real criminals.
Well, as Deborah was pointed out, what about rapes? What about car thefts? What about burglaries? Oh, yeah, that's all going on as well. Yeah, thank you very much. It harks back, doesn't it, to 2 weeks ago when Graham Linehan, the writer and creator of Father Ted, was arrested at Heathrow Airport, having flown in from America for troubling tweets that he'd posted about trans issues about 10 months before. Just to lay out the facts of that case, he's Irish. So what we're talking about here is a foreigner flying in from a foreign country, America, and being arrested for tweets that he posted in America months ago. That's extraordinary. Now, Sir Mark Rowley, the Met Police Chief, said, well, yeah, I get it. You know, there were 5 armed cops waiting for him at Heathrow. In fairness, at an airport, cops always will be armed. but 5 of them waiting. And Mark Rowley, the Met Police Chief, he said, well, you know, our hands are tied. You know, we are legally forced to do this. No. It's absolute rubbish. Coppers have the right of discretion to decide what they should spend taxpayers' money on, really, what they should devote their time to. So, as you say, if I phone up the police station and say somebody's just nicked my sandwich, or, you know, they've taken an apple off my apple tree, you know, that's not great, but you can understand a cop and say, look, I'm sorry, mate, we've got more important things to do than that. But Mark Rowley said, we don't have any choice in this. Well, they make a choice every damn day with thousands and thousands of car thefts, thousands of bicycle thefts, thousands of minor violent assaults. They make these choices all the time, and yet when it comes to tweets, when it comes to freedom of speech, they say their hands are tied. That's just a lie, isn't it? What that reveals, what it revealed about Mark Rowley is like top cops everywhere, obviously in Thames Valley as well, they want to do this. They like patrolling free speech. They like patrolling the tweets. They enjoy this. They think it's a sacred duty of theirs. What a load of crap.
Well, you've got to ask yourself, who thinks, you know, like the arrest at Heathrow and this one, you've got to ask yourself, when somebody starts filming it, if you're a police officer, you think, does this look good? You know, and they must be. They
think it does, don't they?
Yeah, I agree. They're living in a parallel universe where they do think it's good, and they've got to be re-educated. Now, this re-education of the police comes from the top. So the Home Secretary should be saying, "You've got to stop it, and you stop it now." They could bring in a law saying, unless it's proved to have caused some violence, you do nothing about it. So the Home Secretary could do something. The police and crime commissioners, like the one in Thames Valley, could take a stand and say, we're not going to investigate these things anymore. I don't think anybody would be on the street saying, oh, you should be investigating this. So the Chief Constable could set the operational limits of it as well. Again, if there's no violence it caused, then we don't do anything about it. And these top people could make these decisions and say, our focus is now on robbery, rape, theft, burglary, whatever crime impacts that area. But they're just crazy, Kevin. And if you think me heart back, you said before about the journalist in Plymouth. I've been on here discussing Plymouth with you before. Remember the
yeah, exactly right. I remember the case.
Disabled lad.
Is it little Oliver was his name?
Put on a tweet.
Mental age of 10. Yeah.
Facebook post saying he's going to kill Keir Starmer, and the whole apparatus of the police comes crushing down on this young lad, and all his mum's got to do is say, right, Oliver, you're not using your phone or the internet for a week. Little bits of common sense. The common sense has gone out of policing. When I was a young lad, me and a couple of mates were shooting air rifles and messing around. The policeman came round to our house. We had to go see this woman and say, look, we're sorry we're shooting air rifles. And we all went on to join the army or the Marines or the police. And we all did well, but that was common sense policing, and it's been lost because they've become robots like Rowley who say, we have to obey the law. Well, you don't have to obey the law because, like you say, every day, Alex Phillips has been on here saying, you know, a car was smashed into, she got some CCTV evidence, registration.
Exactly.
Nothing done about it. Nothing.
They make these decisions about real crimes every single day, not to pursue them. And yet when it comes to patrolling the tweets, freedom of speech, people posting things on Facebook and X, they say their hands are tied. They're not at all. They're not at all. They just like this and they think it looks good. Why they can't see that it makes them actually look absolutely terrible, dreadful, stupid, and bad at their jobs, I don't understand, Mike. But here we are, modern policing, eh? Mike, great to talk to you, as always. Thank you so much for your time. Mike Neville there, former Met Police detective. What do you think about that? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. Poor lady, suffering from cancer, no hair left, copper. You've got to apologise. No, you can't tell me I've got to apologise. That's not your job. You're a copper. You're supposed to uphold the law. I haven't broken the law. 0344 499 1000. Next up, we're going to talk about the Jimmy Kimmel story that is sending shockwaves through America, indeed all around the world, with the excellent Joe Concha from Fox News. That next. Stay tuned.
know from endless examples that women are often persuaded, cajoled into staying in abusive, physically, sexually abusive relationships by these courts. We know that they lose the custody of their children when the children reach a certain age. We know that they're not given the same financial standing and rights to inheritance. It really is an absolute regime that has no place in this country of ours.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're just waiting to get hold of Joe Concha in New York, and in the meantime, let's chat to, let's talk to some very important people, as in you, the audience, my fabulous audience. Let's talk to Jason in Sheffield. Hello, Jason.
Hey there, mate. How you doing? You old hack, how you doing?
My old hack? Not so much of the old or hack.
Yeah, I'm
No, you're right, I'm an old hack. I'm all right. What would you like to say, mate?
What I'd like to say is, have you noticed that Keir Starmer, when he's in a press conference on the old ridiculous elections, if he gets asked an awkward question, he looks down at his papers, starts shuffling through his papers, then gets a pen out and pretends to write something because he's getting really angry. He's getting really angry.
I don't think he's angry, Jason. I don't think he's angry. He's just completely flummoxed. He doesn't know what he's doing. I don't think the guy gets all that angry. You know, I think he's an automaton. He's a robot. Anger requires emotion. I don't think he has many.
If you notice that you play a clip in between, I watch Talk on YouTube, and you see the one where he's asked about paying the £6,000 back, and he gets the pen out. That's what he does. Gets the pen out.
But also the other thing is,
the pen's nowhere near the paper.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, if you look at, he's like a. You know those people, those expert interrogators who always know when people are lying, you know, because their eyes start darting about and they look... Well, Keir Starmer will be the world's worst poker player because he gets asked an awkward question and then he starts answering it and you just know he's lying because his eyes are darting about all over the place. He's got this shifty look on his face. He telegraphs his lies and he telegraphs his awkwardness. You're absolutely right, Jason. He is terrible in the public spotlight.
Yeah, well, put it this way.
Yep.
If all you say, all you put across are lies and no truth comes out, then...
Yeah, well, considering he lies so much, you'd think that he'd be any good at it, wouldn't you? But the more he lies, the worse he seems to become at it. So, yeah, you're right. It is quite an amusing activity to watch this guy as he falls apart in the seams at nearly every press conference. He's hopeless. He's hopeless at it. That doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad politician or a bad Prime Minister, but in his case, it does. Jason, good point. Thanks for a call. Good call. We'll talk again soon. Jason in Sheffield. Let's talk to John in Cornwall. Hello, John.
Hello, Kevin. Free speech. I'm a big supporter of it.
Yep.
But it's a two-way street. That's what people don't realise. It's a two-way street. And in today's society, it's all right for some people to say things, but not other people. And I'm forever saying things that people kind of get angry about. And And they said, what gives you the right to say that? I said, well, my father and my grandfather, great men, fought in 2 bloody wars to give me the right to say how I feel.
Yeah, I know. I mean, free speech. You saw that today. You know, in that video I just took. So the coppers are going around telling people you posted something on Facebook or on X, Twitter, and you've upset someone. So we need you to say sorry. And if you don't say sorry, we'll have to interview you at the police station. This is the policing of perfectly legal free speech. In other words, the police have taken it upon themselves to stamp out the freedom to post on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, pretty much exactly what you like. You should be able to post pretty much exactly what you like, unless you're sort of calling for violence or harm against someone or some body of people. But apart from that, in my view, you should be able to tweet what you like.
Well, if we can get, if 100,000 people in this country posted posts, the police would be so swamped by it, that would be at the end. Do you know something?
Yeah, but it's pretty selective, John. I mean, you know, a lot of people, it's only when these tweets, allegedly problematical tweets, are brought to the police's attention that they swing into action and go around to people's houses. I think a lot of people do tweet, shall we say, awkward or what the police wouldn't like, but they don't get a complaint, so they get away with it. So, you know, it's not that everyone who ever tweets something potentially offensive gets a visit by the police, but too many people do.
Well, when they said to me, you can't say that, I say, yes, I can. And they said, well, we'll get you arrested. And I said, well, you'll give me then an even bigger stage dish out.
And what was it you said again, John, that they thought they could arrest you over?
Well, I don't take sides. Really, I don't take sides, but I don't like bigotry. And 2 people who were in support of Israel were justifying the slaughter in Gaza. And I said, but I was there talking to them, and they said, oh, well, how can you justify that? And I turned around and I said, well, they said, how do you stop it? I said, well, the problem was you stopped a great man halfway through a job 80 years ago, and they went nuts.
All right. So, hang on, who were you speaking up in favour?
No Middle East problem.
So hang on, what did the police? Who were you speaking up? What did the police object to what you said? What did you say exactly?
The people I was speaking to, the bigots of us who was shouting the odds, they turned around and they said, "We're going to report you." I said, "Do it. You'll give me an even bigger stage."
And so, sorry, John, lay out again to me exactly what you said that they thought was worthy of reporting.
Well, they said to me, How do you settle the Middle East? I said, well, the problem was you stopped a great man 80 years ago halfway through a job. If you'd let him finish the job, there'd be no Middle East problems.
Who's the great?
I didn't mean it like that, but I just.
Oh, well, yeah. Were you talking about Hitler? Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't mention.
Well, he's not really a great man, is he? What with one thing and another.
Yeah, but the difference was they were being bigots. But they didn't like it when I threw exactly the same horribleness back at them.
Look, what you said I don't think is a great thing, but it's exactly what I mean. You should absolutely be allowed to say that. And if people find that offensive, tough luck. You know, that is so what? It's a good example, John. It's a good example. It's not, you know, I think you would admit it's not the nicest thing.
I won the argument with it. I won the argument.
Yeah, and now you're doing 10 years. So, but no, seriously, no, that you know, arguably what you said is an extremely offensive thing to say. But so what? You're allowed to be extremely offensive. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, free speech is a two-way street.
Yes, it is. It is too. Free speech should be pretty much absolute in my view. But anyway, well done for winning the argument, John. Thank you very much. Good call, John in Cornwall there. Shall we go to Adrian in Somerset? Yes, let's. Hello, Adrian.
Good evening. How are you, sir? Are you well?
Not bad. Do you want to talk about freedom of speech, yeah?
Yeah, and
Be careful now. Be careful what you say.
I know, isn't it, mind?
Yeah.
So I think that this freedom of speech is, say what you want, but people get offended. Now,
who cares?
It's slightly amiss, but I think that it kind of stems, go back to the early noughties, where you'd have sports day, And if you've done the egg and spoon race, 6 kids done an egg and spoon race, everybody got a medal. Because if you came second, third, fourth, sixth, last, you'd get upset. And they didn't want anybody to be upset. So everybody's an equal, and here you go. And so they've gone from an early age to go into this, and it's entitlement. Well, I participated, so I'm entitled to this. I've been told at school that I'm not allowed to say this. That's not a nice thing to say. You can't say that to me because I've been taught that.
Right. It's a good point, AJ. You're right. This sort of this offence industry does, I think, spring from a sense of entitlement. People, are taught to sort of love each other from an early age.
Absolutely.
I always remember when, like when Facebook started and people go, look, here's me on my holiday, here's me on a day out, here's my lunch. Suddenly they all began to feel just how crucially they were important to everything, and they feel they've got such an extreme sense of self-importance that if anyone offends them, they think it's a crime.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I agree exactly what you're saying.
Where everybody gets a medal, whether you come first, second, or last, or no matter how many it is. If you're first or last, you get a medal. Well, where's that teaching you for a job interview?
Well, no, I mean, I disagree with all of that. I think, competition is something, when I was at school, the competition was taught to us.
I also think as well, sorry to interrupt you there, I didn't mean to do that, but I also think as well, it's this lack of discipline now. You can't discipline children, and I don't mean smacking, but you can't grind them, or you can't take their phone away, or you can't, have them upset.
Well, it's all part and parcel of the same syndrome. Yeah,
and it's all of these ones that got high up who had the discipline, and, well, they didn't like it. No, you didn't like it. Nobody likes your discipline, but you learnt from it.
Yeah.
And you think, well, I learnt wrong there. And these people that are saying, well, you can't discipline now, look at the position that you're in, high up on the ladder rung, because you had that discipline.
No, exactly. No, I agree with this. It's a very good point there. It is about a sort of sense of entitlement, a sense of self-importance that seems to be instilled in people from an early age. School kids seem to be taught by teachers to sort of love themselves above everything else. And of course, they come to feel they're the centre of the universe. They're very, very important. So if I turn up and I give them what for, I insult them, they think that's a crime. Well, it's not. Good points, Adrian. Let's go to break.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, we're going to take a couple more calls. Let me read this message out. It's rather good. This is from Becky. It's quite a long one. I just feel like putting my head in my hands when I listen to Shabana Mahmood in that ludicrous video purporting success in the what she calls the 50 in 1 out agreement with France, because that is exactly what it has the potential to be. I think it's probably a lot worse than that, Becky, but I take your point. If a so-called legal migrant comes in, they are then, according to the unbelievable rules in this country, allowed to bring in their family. As we all know, that is an extended family, so it has every potential to be 1 in 50 out. I wish I was young enough and well enough to leave this country, but I hope my godchildren and stepchildren can, because unless these things change dramatically, the thought of them staying here horrifies me. I think that people are in despair about this. 1 in 1 out is ridiculous. It's just an absolute hogwash, absolute claptrap. Right, let's go. We're going to take a couple more calls, and we'll go back to break. When we come back after these calls, we're going to talk about the Eurovision Song Contest. The Director General of the BBC, Tim Davie, today refused to deny, as it were, that the BBC might pull out of the next Eurovision Song Contest if Israel is allowed to participate. Several European countries have already threatened to boycott the next Eurovision. It's in Vienna, and it looks like the BBC might jump on that bandwagon, which would crystallise the BBC's anti-Israel problem, wouldn't it? I mean, a lot of observers say, and I wouldn't necessarily have a massive row with them about it, that the BBC's anti-Israel problem, which is palpable, clear, is actually a form of anti-Semitism. It spills over into anti-Semitism. Their coverage of Gaza has definitely bordered on anti-Semitic, certainly anti-Israel. So if the BBC pulls out of Eurovision because Israel's in it, that's it. We then know it's an anti-Israel organisation. 12 million people watch Eurovision on the BBC. People love it. I don't myself, but I'm glad that other people do. So the BBC may well cancel your favourite show, folks, because they don't like Israel, and if Israel are in it, they don't want to be in it. We don't know that for sure, but Tim Davie refused to confirm that the BBC will cover Eurovision if Israel is allowed to participate. Extraordinary. Let's go. By the way, Joe Concha in New York, who's going to talk to us about the Jimmy Kimmel affair. An extraordinary story. Bit of a time lapse difference problem. We got it all a bit wrong, so Joe's going to join us at 9:30 after I talk to Kinsey Schofield, so we've sort of pushed him forward by an hour. In the meantime, let's talk to William in Glasgow. Hello, William. What would you like to say?
Hello, Kevin.
Hi.
I love your show, mate. I think you're brilliant. Keep it up.
Thank you, man. Thank you. What would you like to say?
Yeah, just a small point, just a quick one. I was watching Mike Graham this morning, and he said that the Home Office, they give out pamphlets and literature to all illegal migrants to tell them what they can say to stay in this country. You know, like, if you can't use you're a homosexual, you can use you'll be persecuted, etc. So does that mean that the Home Office are handing out literature to illegal immigrants so they can perjure themselves in a court?
It's that the Home Office or the British government are actually funding a charity organisation that does that. It's not direct.
Even funding
but no, it's government money is funding this organisation that, you're quite right, gives advice to migrants about how to game the system. Say you're gay, say you've been tortured, say you've been, all these, so they encourage them to tell lies so they're able to stay. You're right. It's good, isn't it?
Brilliant, yeah.
Brilliant,
Okay,
brilliant, yeah. Welcome to Britain, balmy Britain. William, yeah, that's the score, and you're right. I heard that on Mike's show as well, and it is shocking. It's shocking, but somehow, as with all other aspects of the migrant crisis, is not surprising. It's the way it goes here. Absolutely ridiculous. Good call, William. Thanks very much. Call me again. Let's talk again soon. Let's go to break now. When we come back, we'll do that Eurovision story. Then at 9 o'clock, I'll be joined, after the 9 o'clock news, that is, by, of course, the great Kinsey Schofield. We'll talk about royal stories, Harry, Meghan, Donald Trump, William, Kate, all of that. And then, after Kinsey, we'll talk to Joe Concha, the brilliant Fox News correspondent, presenter, about Jimmy Kimmel, the US talk show, who's been taken off the air over ludicrous comments he made about Charlie Kirk's murderer, this guy Tyler Robinson. Jimmy Kimmel said, oh, well, he's MAGA. He's a Trump supporter. No, he's not. He's a far-left trans rights campaigner. He's nothing to do with Donald Trump. Jimmy Kimmel, being left-wing, being liberal, wants this vicious little murderer to be a Trump follower. So it looks as if, because he wants it, he said it's true. It's not true. ABC feels he told a direct lie to his audience, and that, according to ABC, is beyond the pale. They've taken this show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, off the air for the foreseeable future. In other words, it won't be coming back. Had an audience of about 12 anyway, so it wasn't exactly a smash hit. So R.I.P. Jimmy Kimmel Live. We'll talk about that later because it is a big story. It's an interesting story. But next, we'll talk to Stephen Silverman, Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, about this extraordinary situation that the BBC may pull out of Eurovision if Eurovision allows Israel to participate. What's going on? 0344 499 1000. That next. Stay tuned.
We know from endless examples that women are often persuaded, cajoled into staying in abusive, physically, sexually abusive relationships by these courts. We know that they lose the custody of their children when the children reach a certain age. We know that they're not given the same financial standing and rights to inheritance. It really is an absolute regime that has no place in this country of ours.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm just going to work on straight to the show. Guy was on only a few days ago talking about the extraordinary decision at the National Television Awards to make Gary Lineker, a man who was forced to leave the BBC early in anti-Semitic disgrace. That award show made him Television Presenter of the Year. Guess what's happened now? Well, welcome to the show to the Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, Stephen Silverman. Stephen, thanks for coming back. Let's talk about this. This is extraordinary. Next May, it will be the 70th Eurovision Song Contest. It's going to be in Vienna. The BBC's Director General, bearing in mind this is a massive event for the BBC, 12 million people tend to tune in, and the BBC I think pays several million pounds to be one of the top broadcasters. That means they don't have to go through the semi-finals, they go straight to the main event on the Saturday. So the BBC has got a lot invested in this competition. Now this year several European countries have already threatened to boycott the event if Israel are allowed to participate. Important to point out, Israel nearly won it last year. They came second, which was a vote of the people. The people evidently do not share the BBC's anti-Israel sentiments. So the people voted Israel into second place. Well, this year, because Israel are slated to participate again, several European countries have boycotted it. And Tim Davie, the Director General of our state broadcaster, the BBC, is now refusing to say that if Israel are allowed to participate, the BBC will air Eurovision next year. So he's effectively saying it's possible that the BBC may join the boycott if Israel is allowed to participate. That, as I said earlier, Stephen, I think will crystallise the truth about the BBC. It has an enormous anti-Israel problem, which I think just spills over into outright anti-Semitism. Would you agree?
Yeah, you know, you would think, wouldn't you, that after almost 2 years of embarrassing itself time and time again, with its obvious bias as a result of basically having drunk the Hamas Kool-Aid, the BBC would say, OK, enough. But no, there's still fuel in the tank, and it's decided to go one better. I mean, you know, the last 2 years have been characterised by constant, pointless, performative virtue signalling. This has to be the worst of the lot yet. This is meant to be an apolitical celebration of togetherness, using music to bring nations closer. And what do? They decide to make it a divisive political event that excludes the world's only Jewish state based on a load of absolute nonsense propaganda, which is the complete antithesis to the whole rationale behind the Eurovision competition.
The Spanish broadcaster RTVE has decided on a potential boycott. Slovenia, Ireland, Holland have all announced they will not take part if Israel is allowed to participate. When testifying to the House of Commons Public Accounts Committee on Monday, Mr. Davie said Eurovision has never been about politics, agreed, but then went on to say we are very aware of the concerns. What is he talking about? This is a silly pop song contest that, by the way, Israel perennially does very well in. It's unbelievable, don't you think?
What are they afraid of? And I think we know the answer to that. They're afraid of the public vote. The public vote that shows that the public is completely divorced from this groupthink of a small minority who are performatively showing their credentials as good people on top of the moral high ground.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense. And these good people like Slovenia and Spain, whose prime minister earlier this week made a speech in which he regretted the fact that Spain doesn't have nuclear bombs it could use to intervene in Israel's war against Hamas. It's like a collective mass derangement has gripped a huge part of society, and this is just horrendous. More than 4/5, 84% of British Jews, according to the survey we released a couple of years ago, agree that boycotts of Israeli artists, academics, or businesses selling Israeli products just constitutes intimidation.
Mm-hmm.
And at a time when anti-Semitism is at levels that none of us imagined.
It's horrifying, Stephen. Sorry to interrupt. Here's what I think they're worried about. What happened at last year's contest when Israel came second is, predictably, all the official judges, the country's representatives, their vote, the decisions are, or the winner is decided by a combination of the official votes and the public votes who phoned their votes in. All the official judges, the votes, for Britain and etc., hardly gave Israel any points at all. The public gave them a landslide, such a landslide that they very nearly won. They came second. Really interesting, as you say, proving that the public do not share the BBC's anti-Israel groupthink. And I think what they're scared of in May is that Israel might win, and then they'll have to host the contest the following year. It's ridiculous.
Quite possibly. And, there is a ridiculous side to this, but there's also a very serious...
Yeah, of course.
And we're seeing the spread of this. Again, it was only this week that the Royal College of Defence Studies, for the first time in its history, banned a country from attending. It's banned Israeli soldiers from attending, which, when you consider the fact that Israel is an important ally of this country, that there is an important exchange of intelligence that this country relies on with Israel, it is just a staggering thing to do. And you wonder where it's going to end. And I really do believe that people have been caught in the grip of this. It's a kind of mass hysteria, this derangement, whereby a country that has been subjected to a barbaric, savage massacre by an organization that is outlawed in democratic countries around the world, an organization that has promised to repeat that atrocity over and over again, that a country who is doing the rest of the world a favor by eliminating that
scourge,
to this level of calumny, and it's just astonishing.
It is astonishing. Israel is subjected to this atrocity. 1,100, 1,200 innocent Jews, many of them women and children, slaughtered in the most horrific way, and the response in this country and indeed around the world is to turn on Israel. I still can't work that out. But just before you go, we've only got a minute or so left, Stephen, but what is your reaction to the fact that Keir Starmer spent the last 2 days kissing Donald Trump's backside? I don't mind him doing that. It's not bad to ingratiate yourself to the most powerful country in the world. But he's waiting until Donald Trump leaves, which actually was about an hour or so. Again, he's flown back to America now. And I think tomorrow, Britain will officially recognise Palestine, which my wife pointed this out. She said, what are they going to officially recognise next? Narnia. Palestine doesn't even exist. But what's your feeling about this kind of duplicity? Oh, yes, Donald, with you all the way. Oh, you've gone now. We recognise Palestine.
It's a really good approach when you're making foreign policy decisions, to look at who's happy about them and who's really horrified by them. Emily Damari.
Very quickly, Stephen, I've got about 30
a British
seconds.
Israeli woman said that Keir Starmer was on the wrong side of history. Hamas, on the other hand, were really grateful for seeing the rewards of terrorism being handed to them. It's as simple as that.
I totally agree. Stephen, it's always great to have you on the show. Thank you once again for your time. Stephen Silverman from the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. When we come back, Kinsey Schofield, get that right, the great Kinsey Schofield will join me to discuss Harry, Meghan and Trump. That next, stay tuned.
Your Majesty, Melania and I are deeply grateful to you and Queen Camilla for your extraordinary graciousness. And to William and Kate, thank you so much. It's been so great being with you today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. The phrase special relationship, seen from American eyes, the word special does not begin to do it justice. We're joined by history and fate, and by love and language. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you.
Security remains the cornerstone of this special relationship. We have the deepest, most advanced...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm just looking at footage today of Keir Starmer in his confab with Donald Trump. You look at me, I'm certain he's about sort of 500 times greyer than he was this time last year. All prime ministers, you know, the job ages them amazingly. And his hair is, you know, he's going to look like Mr. Pastry fairly soon with a shock of white hair or something. Really looking old. But he will be buoyed by that news that Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana have fallen out. You know, the Your Party, the party with no name. Which potentially could pose a serious problem for Labour, because a lot of left-wing Labour people will gravitate towards Corbyn. Whether or not this falling out with Sultana, with her calling Jeremy Corbyn and his mate an old boys club kind of thing. Jeremy Corbyn, sexist? Oh, come on. Jeremy Corbyn dates back to the era when socialism was for men. Labour's still struggling with the concept of maybe one day even having a female leader. Oh, don't be ridiculous. They can be deputy leaders, that kind of thing. No more than that. Yeah, old Starmer, ageing fast. Maybe he should step down pretty soon, if only to save what's left of his ungrey hair. But anyway, let's move on with the show. As I say, in about half an hour we'll go over to New York to talk to Joe Concha, the brilliant Fox News presenter, about the Jimmy Kimmel story, which is extraordinary in itself. We'll bring you up to speed with that in about half an hour. In the meantime, Still with America, let's go over to Los Angeles and speak to our amazing royal guru, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
Hi, Kev. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure. Now, first of all, well, let me play you this, because I was watching I was on air last night, the banquet at Windsor Castle. Donald Trump, the King, made an amusing speech. Donald Trump, I thought, made a very gracious, courteous speech. It behoved him well. But there was this moment where, to use one of these horrible new words, he dramatically unpersoned Prince Harry, acted as if he didn't even exist, complimenting the King on his son, Prince William. No mention of Harry. Let's remind ourselves of this extraordinary interlude.
I'll tell you that I just stood in line and shook about 150 hands, and the King knew every single person and every single company, and some of them had bad names like XYZ-Q3, and he knew every one of them, or at least I think he did, because nobody was complaining. I was very impressed with that. But I just want to say that His Majesty has also raised a remarkable son in His Royal Highness Prince of Wales. Really amazing. We've gotten to know you, and I think you're going to have an unbelievable success in the future.
And he went on, Kinsey, to praise, he said it's so amazing, really amazing to have gotten to know Prince William and Kate, and he called Catherine, he said, so great to see her looking radiant, healthy and beautiful. Now, it was as if Harry had never existed or didn't exist, as I said earlier. If only. But to have been a fly on the wall, because you can guarantee the gruesome twosome were over in Montecito watching every moment of this on TV. To have been a fly on the wall when Donald Trump's speech acted as if Prince Harry didn't even exist. I want to congratulate you on your amazing son, your remarkable son, and then the gushing praise for the amazing Princess Catherine, the Princess of Wales, who of course is Meghan's nemesis. All of this will have been like a dagger through the hearts of Harry and Meghan, won't it? They'd have hated that.
Well, King Charles also joked during his own speech that had the media succeeded in 1970 or in the 1970s in their own attempt at deepening this special relationship between the U.S. and UK, he might have been married off within the Nixon family, because Nixon did try to set him up with his daughter. And I hope she doesn't mind me repeating this, but when I was watching that, I was talking to Sally Bedell Smith, very celebrated royal author.
Yes.
And she told me that Jenna Bush, daughter of former President George W. Bush, had encouraged Prince Harry to date her twin sister, Barbara. So, what might have been? It could have been Barbara Bush sitting there next to Prince Harry, real movers and shakers. But unfortunately, Harry's kicking back in Los Angeles, California, probably with a blunt in one hand and a surfboard in another. And as we've seen on Instagram today, Meghan Markle's in the garden picking strawberries. So not very productive, not a very productive Thursday for the two of them. What I will say about President Trump is he's only ever been openly critical about Meghan. He doesn't slam Prince Harry. Obviously, this was a creative way of dismissing Harry and reminding him of how irrelevant he's become, which Harry likely knew was coming. That's, in my personal opinion, why he sneaks a meeting with President Zelensky in Ukraine, because he's competing with his older brother, who's one day going to be king. I don't think William competes at all. He doesn't have to compete. But I do think that Trump has always been kind and generous when it comes to Harry, solely because he loves Harry's father.
Yep.
But when it comes to Meghan, he says she's nasty. And he says, I feel sorry for Harry because look what he's got to deal with at home.
Exactly right. You used the word there that I think is right on the money. This royal tour, if you like, this presidential tour, and particularly that banquet last night, you know, it put William and Kate obviously right at the centre of things, the King, Donald Trump, and it reduced Harry and Meghan to an irrelevance. No one thinking about them. President Trump acting as if he didn't even exist. And this only a week after Harry went to the ends of the earth to try to make himself relevant, very relevant, with this sort of weird quasi-royal tour of charities, Ukraine, and going to see his dad for 54 brief minutes. So last week, Harry was trying desperately to be relevant. I'm off to Ukraine now, look, another photo op, and so on and so forth. Last night's events reminded him that it's going to take a lot more than a few beaming pictures at charities and going off to Ukraine like a returning hero to wipe the slate clean from some of the of all of the sins that he's committed since running away to America. I mean, his damaging behaviour has been off the scale. You can't just, you know, you can't go over to America, start calling your family racist, your dad mean-spirited, saying that your father wants you dead, and so on and so forth. Oh, Camilla's the villain of the story, and so on. Meghan was the victim of bullying. You can't go off to America and say all that. Really hurt the feelings of your relatives in the royal family, and then come back for 4 quick days, grinning for the cameras at charities and expect everyone to forgive and forget. And yet he does, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, he blew all of that up with the Guardian interview. He blew it all up when he told the Guardian that his conscience was clean and he had no regrets, basically. But what I will say, since Harry's trip, and I do believe this to be true, I've had several people reach out to me saying that they either spoke to Harry themselves or overheard Harry on this trip talking about how he'd like for his children to go to school in the UK. And so we constantly talk about the ulterior motive. The ulterior motive, popularity. He hates being rejected. He hates being the prince that no one likes, down at the bottom of the list with Prince Andrew. Yes, money's running out. We know that to be true. The new Netflix deal is not much of a deal at all. It's basically Netflix going, can we see it first? Like there's
take it somewhere else. We're not interested. Yeah, exactly.
Right, and that's not. There's not even any exclusivity there. So if Harry and Meghan really do have a good idea, Netflix isn't even demanding that they see it first. They're like, take it to Hulu. We don't care. But Hulu, who they're on this weekend, in the midst of all this horrible chaos with assassinations and, you know, cancellations, here's Harry and Meghan on a Disney special because they clearly know how to read a room. But very important work they're doing, talking about how Prince Harry's favorite ride is Space Mountain with all of the horrible things happening in the world. So glad that they're chiming in. But I think that Harry really wants to be back there. I know we're talking about how he wishes he was more relevant and contributing more in the real world, but now I'm really getting the sense that he doesn't love his life in America as much as he tells The Guardian that he does. And will this be a huge blow up in the Sussex household if Meghan does not want to live in the UK and send her children off to school there?
So when he went to Ukraine, you quite rightly sat down with a journalist from the Guardian newspaper, the little red Guardian newspaper. And in this interview, well, first of all, let's just say this. The government has let it be known that they urged Harry not to take this trip to Ukraine. They didn't want him there because he'd be a distraction, because at the same time, the new Foreign Secretary here in Britain, Yvette Cooper, was making an official visit. Harry, they asked him not to go, but this is what's been reported. But Harry being Harry, you know, he struggles to understand grown-up issues. He went anyway. And there is even talk that at the very least the government said, well, don't for God's sake see Zelensky. There is even talk that he defied that and sloped off secretly to see the president of the Ukraine. But either way, the government didn't want him there. Now, this is serious stuff. This is international diplomacy. This is a war-torn country. And for Harry to ride roughshod over the government's desires for him not to be there, I mean, that borders on extremely irresponsible, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah. This is a guy that, while promoting Spare, was encouraging illegal drug use. I mean, I don't know what he thinks his qualifications are. He wasn't a leader when it came to his own military career. He didn't have any authority whatsoever. So why he thinks he's in a position to talk to a president that is currently in the midst of war strategy is beyond me. And why Zelensky would say, yeah, I got a couple of minutes to talk to this guy, tells me that his priorities aren't even straight.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know 100% that this meeting happened, but
The Guardian says it did.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, but we do know the government just didn't want him there, but he went anyway, because for him, this was all part of his love me do quasi-pretend royal tour, and it would get him some, positive, in his mind, some positive pictures, some positive publicity. Very, very strange thing to do. Now, in this interview with The Guardian, he also said, as you discussed, he said, my conscience is clear about Spare, which, is just ridiculous. And he said, I am, and I certainly was not airing my dirty laundry in public. Well, he was, wasn't he? He just was. You know, this is a guy in this book, he talks about the king being mean-spirited, an uncaring father, Camilla being the villain of the story. He revealed the fight with his brother, the rather unseemly fight where he ended up in the dog's bowl. He talked about losing his virginity in a field round the back of a country club, and so on and so forth, even talking about for some reason getting frostbite in his manhood, if I can put it that way.
I have a theory about the frostbite story. I think the frostbite story is to take away from the Catherine and William fairy tale. I think that he tells the story because he says he was dealing with it on the day of their wedding, to make their special day less special, to try to distract from what everyone thought was such a unique and gorgeous ceremony. He's trying to say, well, what you guys didn't know is I was dealing with this really, why would Meghan Markle allow him to include that story in his book? I think it's because it takes away from William and Catherine's special day, and they're two very envious, jealous, bitter people.
Exactly right. And, he said this was all about kind of facing up to the truth and reckoning and all that. It wasn't, was it? This book was a pot boiler full of pretty sordid...
It was fast cash.
Yeah,
fast cash.
He was selling trash for cash. Simple as that, making money, and yet he tries to turn it into some kind of, saintly endeavour that it was important to address the what's true and what's not. Absolute rubbish. We know what he was up to. And let's get back to that meeting he had with the King. You and I discussed this the other day on your podcast, Recollections May Vary. You're also, of course, the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Should have mentioned that earlier. But a different truth is beginning to emerge about that 54-minute meeting with the King. Hadn't seen his dad for 19 months. We now know that at Clarence House, where his dad lives, his dad's fabulous London palace, the royal family have a special VIP entrance at the back so they can come and go as they like. Everybody else, from the Prime Minister to politicians to charity bosses, have to go through the front and through the security screen. The family don't Harry, when he went to see his dad, was made to go through the front. He had to go through the security screen. They were worried he might have recording devices on him. And here's the big story. When he got to his tea for two meeting with his dad in the room, Queen Camilla, who can't stand him and doesn't trust him, doesn't want to be in the same postcode as him, insisted on being in the room. Why? Because she was in effect tacitly warning him, I see a word of this in the media, I will know exactly where it came from. I think that puts into perspective what this meeting was really like. It wasn't this joyful reunion, it was an awkward meeting, and he went on to say, you know, the next year has to be all about focusing on my dad. I think what he really means is the next year has to be all about me focusing on persuading my dad to reopen the Bank of Dad, because he needs money.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are leaks here in the States coming from the usual offenders. Us Weekly specifically, just as a reminder, is the outlet that Harry and Meghan ran to when they didn't like the Hollywood Reporter's report calling Meghan a dictator in high heels. So the Us Weekly had an alleged big scoop that this meeting happened because Prince Harry had written a handwritten note to the king expressing his desire to reconnect. And they said that there was no confirmation that this meeting was going to happen until a week before Prince Harry landed in the UK. And their source, whoever from the Sussex side spoke to Us Weekly, said it was super positive and very relaxed. They said that they were catching up personally about the children and what has been going on with Charles and his health, which I highly doubt that the king would feel comfortable enough sharing that type of information with a son who leaks like a faucet. There were reportedly hugs and tears, according to Us Weekly. Tears. And the mood was genuine and positive. The allegedly insider, said they shared a long hug when they first saw each other. Harry started crying, and it was very emotional for both of them. They really missed each other. It was chosen because, talking about Clarence House, it was less formal than Buckingham Palace. They wanted an intimate setting to ease back into their personal connection without any pressure. And a source telling Page Six, an entirely different outlet, but never forget Page Six's November 2024 headline that 2025 was going to be the year of the Markle Sparkles. So somebody's on the Sussex payroll over there as well, that Harry was eager to show the king photographs of his children throughout the reunion. And so and then we know for a fact that he told people at the Invictus Games that his dad was doing great. So obviously leaks still happening on this side of the pond.
Extraordinary, yes, indeed. And what about Meghan? You said, I didn't notice this, she's been posting a picture of her picking strawberries on Instagram?
Yeah, because when the United States of America has an incredible visit with King Charles, and we see Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and one of Princess Diana's favorite tiaras, looking like $1 million, with the President of the United States telling her privately and publicly how beautiful she is. That's when Meghan Markle decides to remind us all that she sells loose fruit spread for a living, and that's the path that she's voluntarily chosen after God's gifted her the title of Duchess. She runs off to Montecito with her pot-smoking husband. And so today on As Ever, she posted a video of her gardening, picking strawberries in a denim dress and an oversized hat, because we just needed to be reminded that she's living and breathing on this earth. And you know, she's made some pretty poor life choices.
She certainly has. And what is the deal with As Ever? I know we talk about this every week, but she's gone very quiet on As Ever, hasn't she?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what can you say? Please, 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 for the love of God, my new champagne or my new rosé hasn't sold out yet. I think that she is probably worried about looking desperate because a couple of the items have not sold out. I think that she's been disappointed by the reaction to season 2 of With Love, Megan. And quite honestly, had the product's been ready for season 1, I think that there was enough morbid curiosity, and we're joking when we say season 1. The show was filmed back to back. They were released way too close to each other. These faux seasons released way too close to each other. Guess who wasn't invited to the Emmys this year, despite the fact that she released 2 alleged separate seasons of a lifestyle show on Netflix? Meghan Markle. She was nowhere to be found at the Emmys, not even mentioned. We usually get a pot shot by somebody on the stage of the Sussexes, some sort of dig at the Sussexes. They're so irrelevant. They're not even a joke anymore in Hollywood. But I think she was really disappointed by the negative reaction to season 2. What did you expect? It was filmed back to back with season 1. What dramatic changes could be made? But there's such a lack of interest that her products didn't sell out, and they were at least keen enough the second time around to have product available through the launch of the second season. But they didn't have that with the first season, and I will forever consider that one of their biggest professional failures regarding this alleged partnership between Netflix and Meghan Markle. Why would you release a series that you're trying to, it's allegedly this experimental series that they're trying to make, where they're trying to make Meghan Markle this new QVC home shopping network type of personality with no tangible product available for the audience to purchase upon its release. Well, here comes the second series, and people are just over it, and the products aren't selling out. So I think that was a huge loss for them. I think that was a huge fail.
And I also, as we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation, you know, Harry's whole raison d'etre last week as he toured London. Look at me at this charity. I'm at another charity. No, I'm going to Ukraine. Aren't I great? It was, if you like, yes, of course, it was a desperate bid to regain the popularity, to win back the hearts and minds of the British people. You can't do that with just a few happy, snappy pictures at charities. You need more than that. But it was also an attempt to re-establish the Harry and Meghan brand with a kind of a relevance. You're right.
Without the Meghan, though, like, I think it's important that we acknowledge without the Meghan.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Harry trying to seem relevant again, but the magnificent events we've seen over the last 48 hours with Donald Trump's visit. He's flying back to America as we speak. Particularly last night's incredible banquet. I mean, Britain does do this stuff well. Looking at that banquet, the speech by the King, the speech by Donald Trump, you know, Kate and William, you know, chatting with the president, you know, all of these scenes just kind of completely erased the recent memory of Harry in London last week. Suddenly, we saw what the royal family's really about over the last couple of days. The pomp, the ceremony, the banquets, Windsor Castle. And you suddenly thought, hang on a second, so what did we get last week? Some ginger guy wandering around grinning at charities. That's not what the royals are about. So somehow or other, the last couple of days have reinforced the fact that Harry and Meghan, in my view, have become less relevant by the day.
Yeah, they use the term that quiet diplomacy, that the importance right there. Donald Trump got exactly what he wanted from this trip. And so he gave a little back to Keir Starmer, you know, who, they can stand in front of microphones all day long and talk about how much they like each other. But Keir Starmer's been horrible about Trump. We know how he truly feels about, especially the way that he functions as a prime minister, making completely opposite decisions to the decisions Donald Trump would make. These guys don't like each other. Keir Starmer got a little bit of what he wanted because King Charles put on a show for Donald Trump. And, you know, Keir Starmer, who I think probably was a Republican.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. He's a socialist. He doesn't like the royal family at all. Nobody in the Labour Party does. But and you have to remember, I mean, although I think the royal family are beginning to like Donald Trump. They didn't used to, but I really do. And he's a good guy to be around. He's a funny guy.
I mean, I just want to say to Prince William, not only did he go after your mom, Like Donald Trump tried to date your mom, but there were a couple of there was some eye contact there last night, and I thought Donald Trump was going to try to steal his girl too.
No, yeah, he was very, very gushing about Princess Catherine. You're right, Kinsey. Excellent to talk to you as always. Have a lovely weekend, and we will regroup on Monday. That's Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Yeah, she'll be back on Monday. Now we're going to go to break now. And a little later than scheduled, but we're delighted to have him on board. In the end, it's Joe Concha from Fox News. We're going to talk about the Jimmy Kimmel affair, which is absolutely astonishing. So that next, stay tuned.
We know from endless examples that women are often persuaded, cajoled into staying in abusive, physically, sexually abusive relationships by these courts. We know that they lose the custody of their children when the children reach a certain age. We know that they're not given the same financial standing and rights to inheritance. It really is an absolute regime that has no place in this country of ours.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, it was last Wednesday, we were on air at the time when the shocking news emerged that poor Charlie Kirk, the Conservative commentator and campaigner, had been assassinated at Utah Valley University. Within a couple of days, they'd managed to arrest the alleged shooter, a guy called Tyler Robinson, who it quickly became apparent was a left-winger, far-left, believer in far-left politics, and pretty obsessional about trans rights. In fact, he shared a room with one of those guys who wants to be a woman, who pretends they're a woman. They call them trans women. They're blokes in dresses. So those were Tyler Robinson's politics. It was quite clear that his assault on right-wing Charlie Kirk, I'm not going to say far right because he was not far right. just believed in traditional American values, family values. He was a Christian, pro-life and so on. That doesn't make him far right. He was right, but not far right. That's a slur on him. But it swiftly became clear that the reason Tyler Robinson shot him, assassinated him from a range of 200 yards straight into the neck, was because of his political beliefs, because Tyler Robinson is a left-winger, a trans rights obsessionalist, and Charlie Kirk was a right-winger. That's why he shot him. Now, 2 nights ago, on ABC, big American network, the late-night talk show host, Jimmy Kimmel, very famous guy. Now, it became clear that Jimmy Kimmel, he didn't like this. This didn't fit in with his worldview. Somehow or other, people from the left, they're loving people, they're caring people. They don't do things like this. So Jimmy Kimmel, extraordinarily, decided to turn Tyler Robinson into a MAGA person, a follower of Donald Trump. He said, oh, it's MAGA, clearly, bum bum. It just wasn't. So either Jimmy Kimmel is the worst informed man in America, in the world, or he just lied to his television audience. I'm going to introduce in just a second the brilliant Fox News commentator, presenter Joe Concha from New York. But before we do, and Joe can watch this as well, here is Jimmy Kimmel on Charlie Kirk on his ABC show Jimmy Kimmel Live on Wednesday night.
Hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Just bizarre, to be honest with you. Well, welcome to the show, Joe Concha. Hi, Joe.
I'm good to see you, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very well. Pretty perturbed about this. Now, as I said, if you were going to cut Jimmy Kimmel some slack, you could say he was the worst informed man in the world. That he alone didn't realise that the alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson, was, of course, a left-winger with strong trans rights views and so on and so forth. He was a bit of a caricature lefty, to be honest with you. Yes. Now, either Jimmy Kimmel doesn't read any newspapers, doesn't watch any TV, doesn't listen to the radio, and therefore didn't know, or he stood before his audience and told them a barefaced lie because that suited his worldview. He doesn't like the idea that lovely left-wingers, caring left-wingers could do such a horrible thing. So he converted Tyler Robinson from the left-wing trans rights obsessionalist that he actually is into a follower of Donald Trump. So, frankly, he just lied, didn't he?
Yes, absolutely, without ambiguity. Jimmy Kimmel's 3 things. He is patently dishonest, he is profoundly stupid, and he is absolutely insufferable. Those 3 things are not good.
Oh, not funny as well. Not funny, Joe. You forgot that.
Yeah, insufferable basically is like the not funny part, because he's like the Pope of late night. He constantly just is lecturing people on how they should think. And this guy, to go ahead and say that, let's unpack this for a minute, okay? So if this shooter was MAGA, then the plan was to take out the biggest supporter of Donald Trump, his biggest advocate and biggest activist as far as mobilizing young people to vote for him. So you're going to take out that guy, and as you said, the guy who loves transgender furries, obviously far left, literally in text messages expressed his visceral hatred for Charlie Kirk. So you're going to take out the #1 MAGA guy below Donald Trump, and that makes you MAGA? So yeah, he lied completely. And then after that, Kimmel said, when obviously Trump knew Charlie quite well, they've had many, many conversations, and to Trump, this affected him personally because this was a friend that had died, a father of 2, a 3-year-old daughter, 1-year-old son, obviously a husband to Erica, and the only child to a mother and father. And Kimmel then said after that, this is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish. I mean, this is utterly vile stuff. And here's the bottom line here, Kev, okay? People are saying here in the States on the left that, well, this is an attack on free speech, that, well, Trump didn't like what Kimmel was saying about him, even though Kimmel's been doing it every night for 10 years. I don't know why suddenly he'd be offended. But because Kimmel said all these bad things about him. Now Trump got him pulled off the air. No, no, no. This is a matter of not free speech, but of free markets. And the fact is that supply and demand was the following. The supply was a steaming pile of poo. It was toxic. This Jimmy Kimmel, he cheered on Luigi Mangione, who shot down that CEO of United Healthcare. You know, was going on about how hot he was. And boy, it's great we don't have to talk about the election, so we could talk about how attractive this man is. That was sick. He wished death on Vice President Pence at the time when he got the vaccine for the first time, says he should just, you know, drink a bottle of poison and be done with it. I could go on and on as far as the things that he has said and done. But the bottom line is that Jimmy Kimmel's brand was toxic, and then the supply, you know, supply and demand, right? The demand was not there. He was a distant third behind Fox's Greg Gutfeld, then behind Colbert. Colbert was losing 40 million. What do you think Kimmel was losing? Yeah. So if I'm Disney, I look at this, or the affiliates like Sinclair and Nexstar, I look at this and say, this guy is not worth saving. We are paying him $15 million. He's an embarrassment to our brand and our network. And oh, by the way, we're losing money hand over fist. So that's why he got fired, not because of an attack on free speech or because Donald Trump said to get rid of him.
I agree with you, Joe, because what we're talking about here, ABC, massive major network over there in the States, it has a responsibility to ensure that its presenters, its stars, do not tell direct lies to its audience. So this is not about cancellation and freedom of speech. This is about a responsible action by a responsible broadcaster. Now, Donald Trump, as you know, has been over here on a rather splendid two-day state visit, and there was a presser this afternoon with our so-called Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and Donald Trump was asked about this, so here's what he had to say.
Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you know, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
Well, Joe, listen, I was saying this afternoon on another program that I do. Now, you probably know I lived in the States throughout the 1990s. I lived over in Los Angeles. And in my day, when I first arrived, I think Johnny Carson was still on there. So Johnny, the late night hosts of that era were Johnny Carson, Dave Letterman, Jay Leno. Now, these were men who understood middle America. They didn't impose their politics on their audience. I don't even know what their politics were. They just wanted to be entertaining. They wanted to interview interesting guests and give their audience a good time. What seems to have happened to the late night talk show crew now is they seem to see that as a platform to spew left-wing politics and anti-Trump derangement syndrome nonsense. So, as you say, Colbert went for the same reason, insulting Donald Trump, and now Jimmy Kimmel has gone for telling a lie, as I said earlier. It's like that Meghan Markle thing is. It's his truth. He wanted a person who could do such a vile and shocking deed as to kill someone for his political viewpoints. He wanted him to be a Trump supporter, so he thought, what the hell? I'll say he was. I mean, that's an extraordinary thing for Kimmel to do, isn't it?
Remarkable, Kevin. And this is a guy, I'm shocked he lasted this long. Because, again, if I'm Bob Iger, I'm running Disney, and I see my highest paid talent, and I put that in scare quotes, go to CBS News, okay? He did this in 2021, and he said, I hope that not one Trump supporter ever watches me again. These are bad people, and I don't want them as my audience. Now, if I'm the CEO of Disney that owns ABC, I would say, wait a minute, you just told half the country never to watch you again? That's probably bad for business. And he did this because his ego was just so out of control, and he didn't care about his ratings, clearly, because he was a distant third. Yeah. So he thought, okay, I'm just going to take a political stand, just like Colbert takes a political stand, or Seth Meyers, same thing, all far, far to the left. And I guess they thought, okay, I don't care about the business aspect of this. I don't care if my network actually makes money on this show. I'm going to use this platform to share all my thoughts and feelings on Donald Trump, and boy, it got old in a hurry as far as just being an echo chamber. Meanwhile, back in the day, here's what Johnny Carson once told Mike Wallace on 60 Minutes. He says, why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? It's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know what? Strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should do that as an entertainer. I mean, amen. Letterman felt the same way. So did Conan O'Brien, and you go down the list as far as Leno. It was escapism. That's what 11:30 at night in the United States used to be. Now it's like watching the Democratic National Convention every night. I mean, you look at Colbert. His #1 guest that he had on his show, seriously, for 10 years, it wasn't, you know, Tom Hanks, it wasn't Seth Rogen, it wasn't like, you know, fun or interesting people. It was Bernie Sanders, 21 times.
Really?
That's not late comedy. Yeah, I swear to God. And #2 is Elizabeth Warren. I mean, yeah, hilarious. Boy, when I think funny, I think Warren.
A laugh a decade, a laugh a decade. I mean, as I was just saying, though, Joe, you're confirming exactly what I said. I used to love those shows. Those guys were talented, they were funny, and they didn't burden their audience with their own political views. I honestly don't particularly know what the political views of Johnny Carson, Dave Letterman, Jay Leno, and all the rest of that era. I don't know what they thought about politics, because they realised, as you just said, the idea is to entertain your audience, not bore them rigid with your left-wing worldview. Kimmel, you know, here's the deal. I mean, as I say, this is not about freedom of speech. I think this is about a responsible broadcaster saying, hang on a second, we can't have one of our major presenters deliberately telling our audience lies. We can't have that. He has to go. And as you say, just like Colbert, when you add, by the way, Colbert, isn't it? What do you mean Colbert? Anyway, anyway, you can't have somebody like that telling lies to their audience. And when ABC announced that his show was immediately pulled for the foreseeable future, you can take it to the bank that means forever. And just to sort of put this into perspective about what Kimmel did. Talk about the ego has landed. I thought the saddest shots, I saw some footage today of all the staff, you know, the technicians, the office people, all leaving the Jimmy Kimmel Live office with their bags, their belongings, everything, knowing that Jimmy Kimmel, with his left-wing nonsense, with his left-wing lies, just put them out of work. You know, he didn't think about anybody else. It was all about, aren't I wonderful? I don't like Donald Trump. Why do these people suffer so much from Trump derangement syndrome?
It's an excellent question, because right now things are going pretty well in this country. You know, our border, we used to have, you know, millions of people crossing the U.S. southern border. Now that's down to 0. That's good. We saw the stock market, S&P, Dow, NASDAQ, hit another record high today. Okay, that's good for my retirement. We see Donald Trump trying to end these endless wars, whether it be between Ukraine and Russia, which is proving to be very difficult because Putin's an impossible actor to work with. But still, he's trying, right? And that's a good thing. And all the other things that, as far as like permanent tax cuts through the big, beautiful bill, I don't know. I don't. It's a personal thing, I guess, and Donald Trump's not supposed to be the president, I think. They never thought he'd win in 2016, because if you remember, Trump went on Kimmel's show and read a children's book. He went on Colbert's show and laughed it up with them. He went on Fallon's show and Fallon messed up his hair to see if it was real, and Fallon got ostracized for normalizing him. But all that time, all those late night hosts thought he's great for ratings, but he can't possibly beat Hillary. And when he won, I think they went into basically a septic shock that they have not recovered from since. That's the only thing that makes sense. And I think at first, being anti-Trump did pretty well for ratings. Now, as I said, it's become so old and predictable that no one's tuning in anymore. And all I know is, like, Carson would get 10, 12 million people per night watching him. Kimmel barely got 1 million. Like, that just tells you just how far late night has fallen here in the U.S. It's a broken business model, and it's time to move on to something else. And in this case, it's Celebrity Family Feud with somebody who's actually funny, Steve Harvey.
Excellent. And I do believe that tomorrow night, when the Jimmy Kimmel Live show was supposed to be on, It's been replaced by, guess what? A documentary about Charlie Kirk. That should send Jimmy quite a message, don't you think?
I would, I hope so. Because again, think of the circumstances. It wasn't that he lied about, tax cuts or something, pretty benign. He lied about the shooter of a guy who, again, this was a huge movement. He starts Turning Point USA from scratch, from nothing, 18 years old. At 18, I'm thinking, where am I going to spring break? What fraternity am I going to pledge? Hey, how do I get a keg at 18 years old when the drinking age is 21? Like, I had very shallow thoughts. And a lot of 18-year-olds do. That's just the way it is.
I still do, Joe. I still do, yeah.
I kind of do myself, yeah. But Charlie's like, I don't like the direction of this country. Yeah. And just from scratch, he starts something that created millions of followers, got millions of people involved in the process, and most importantly, said it's okay to talk to the other side and debate them. You don't have to scream them down. You certainly don't have to turn to violence. Charlie Kirk, as you said, a man of faith, a man who professed and living a nonviolent exchange with people that he disagreed with, and he embraced the First Amendment more than anybody, and he was executed for it. And if Kimmel's going to lie about somebody like that, then that's right. ABC should have no use for him. And he'll go to Substack and join the other ones doing a podcast from his kitchen, I guess. And he's not going to lose his free speech. He's just going to not get paid $15 million for it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we were on the air live when poor Charlie got shot. And it was hard to do because it was so shocking. Poor guy, 31-year-old, loving husband, father of 2 little kids. Anybody who thinks that's the topic for humour, who wants to dance on his grave, I mean, to hell with them, to be honest with you. Just a quick couple of thanks so much for joining us, Joe. It's always a pleasure. Just a couple of words from you, if you will, about the state visit of Donald Trump last couple of days. He's in the air flying back to your great country at the moment, but they managed to avoid pretty much all the Jeffrey Epstein questions, the Peter Mandelson questions. So it was pretty much a positive triumph. Trade deals being talked about. How was that covered in America? Did the Americans feel that it was a triumph too?
Well, yeah, I mean, just if you look at the images, like let's say you just have the sound down and you see the president and the first lady Melania in a horse-drawn carriage with the king. I mean, that's kind of cool stuff, right? I mean, and just they just pulled out all the stops for him. Very constructive talks with Starmer. Just overall, you can't ask for a visit to go better, quite frankly. And we think about where Donald Trump was just 1 year ago, just almost was assassinated for a second time. And Kamala Harris is getting all this positive press, and people are saying, no, I don't think he could win. And look where he is now, hanging out with the King of England and beautiful, the UK, which the weather looked awesome. Not a bad change from 1 year ago. That's certainly.
I wouldn't say it was awesome. It could have been worse. Put it that way. Just one last point. I just want to say this. We don't really have time to show you the footage or anything, but I want to say on behalf of British people like me, millions of us, we really appreciate Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, formerly Charlie Kirk, people like you who are so concerned and worried about our socialist government and the erosion of free speech in this country. I interviewed today Lucy Connolly, the lady who went to jail for 2 years and 7 months for writing hurty words on Twitter. They are sending people to jail in this country for what they post on social media, and we get no support from most of our politicians about our fears about freedom of speech. And thank God for Trump, Vance, Kirk, people like yourself, for at least carrying the torch for poor Britain and our erosion of freedom of speech. Seriously, man.
Oh, thank you. Don't forget Elon Musk, right? And turning X into a true free speech platform. And again, there's a big difference between what Jimmy Kimmel did. He still has free speech. He's just not going to get millions of dollars from a company anymore. And what's happening in Britain right now, as far as you write a tweet that somebody doesn't like as a regular citizen, and suddenly you're going to jail. A big difference.
Give me a break. And as we've stated, we've made very clear, Jimmy Kimmel got fired because he told a direct lie. He knew he was lying. He lied to his audience. You can't have that on a responsible broadcaster. This isn't a free speech issue. This is about lying to the audience. So that's why he's got his marching orders, and good riddance, frankly. Brilliant to speak to you, Joe, as always. Thank you so much for your time. That's the excellent Joe Concha, Fox News commentator. What a story that is. We better. Are we going to break? Yes, we're going to break. Get lost in all this, and we'll just have time to squeeze in a couple of calls after we come back. So stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Show's nearly over. Thank you for all your messages. I'm sorry I didn't get to enough of them. Thank you for all your calls. Tomorrow night we've got a very special show. Lucy Connolly, the poor lady who was jailed for 2 years and 7 months for hurty words she posted on Twitter. I did a full and frank sit-down interview with her today. We'll play you that tomorrow. It'll also be on my show What Just Happened, which is also tomorrow. In the meantime, in just a little while, it's Harry Cole Saves the West. He'll take you through to 11 p.m. and then it's Petri Hoskin. No, it's not, is it? It's Andre Walker and Ash Gould tonight. So all that. So in the meantime, thank you so much for your company. It's always an honour to broadcast to you. I hope you found me just about acceptable tonight, and we will be back for more of the same tomorrow night. Another edition of the Political Asylum at 7 p.m. right here on Talk. I very much expect you to be there. Don't forget, I have been Kevin O'Sullivan and you have been you. See you tomorrow.
been a mass immigration. A lot of it is from the Middle East, a lot from Muslim countries, where children there in schools are being educated not just to hate Israel, not just to demonize Israel, but Jews. They come into your country with those anti-Semitic perspectives and norms. And when they don't assimilate into your democracy, your tolerant society,